Story number 1. The Tale of Irene, Goddess of Peace. Long ago, in the land of the gods, there was a gentle goddess named Irene, the embodiment of peace and tranquility. Unlike the gods of war and power, Irene's presence was soft and calming. Wherever she went, harmony followed, and the world grew quiet under her watchful care. People would pray to her for peace, hoping she would grace their lands with her calming touch. One day, as Irene wandered through the peaceful valleys of earth, she came upon a small village at the edge of a vast forest. The village had once been filled with joy and laughter, but now it was troubled. A terrible conflict had broken out among the villagers, and the harmony they once knew had faded. Crops were neglected, and the once clear rivers ran murky with neglect. Moved by the sadness she saw, Irene decided to walk among the people to understand their pain. She entered the village, unnoticed at first, and sat by a young woman named Callista, who was tending to her garden, though the plants were wilting. Callista sighed and said to the goddess, not knowing who she was, "Once our village was so beautiful, but now it seems we've forgotten how to live in peace. Everyone is divided, and no one listens anymore." Irene smiled kindly, her voice as soft as a gentle breeze. "Sometimes," she said, "people need only to be reminded of the harmony that lies within them. Peace is never truly gone, only misplaced. It can be found again with care and patience." Curious, Callista asked, "But how? How do we bring peace back to our village?" Irene looked up at the sky, watching as the last light of the setting sun faded into soft twilight. She spoke again, her voice filled with warmth. "Peace begins with the small things, the care of a garden, the kindness of a word, the patience of listening to one another. When people tend to these things, peace follows like a river flowing through all of life." Inspired by Irene's words, Callista decided to gather the villagers together. She encouraged them to start small, to tend their gardens, to help one another, and most of all, to listen. Slowly, the villagers began to reconnect, sharing stories and laughter. Where there had been harsh words and division, there was now understanding. The fields bloomed again, and the village was filled with the sound of laughter and song. As the village returned to its former peace, Irene continued to walk among them, unnoticed, but always present. She smiled as the harmony was restored, knowing that her work was done, for now. She knew that peace, like a garden, needed constant care, and it was something the villagers would need to nurture themselves. With a heart full of contentment, Irene returned to the heavens, watching over the world from afar, always ready to bring her quiet strength to those who sought it. And so, as the story ends, may you feel the same calm that Irene brought to the village. Let the peaceful presence of the night wash over you, soothing your mind and guiding you into a restful, serene sleep. Sleep well, knowing that peace, like Irene, is always near, waiting to guide you into harmony. Story number 2. Echo and Narcissus. Once upon a time in ancient Greece, there lived a beautiful nymph named Echo. She had a charming voice, and her gift for storytelling and conversation was admired by all who heard her. But Echo had one great flaw. She loved to talk. Her chatter would often distract others, and she would always have the last word. One day, the queen of the gods, Hera, was searching for her husband, Zeus. She suspected he had been spending time with the nymphs. Echo, wishing to protect her fellow nymphs, used her gift of conversation to distract Hera. She talked and talked, filling the air with endless words, giving the nymphs time to escape. When Hera realized what Echo had done, she became furious. In her anger, she cast a curse upon Echo. From now on, she said, you shall have no voice of your own. You will only be able to repeat the last words spoken to you, and nothing more. With this curse, Echo was left unable to express herself, only able to mimic the words of others. Heartbroken and silenced, Echo wandered the forests, hiding from the world, until one day she encountered a young man. His name was Narcissus, and he was the most beautiful mortal anyone had ever seen. His dark hair shimmered in the sunlight, and his features were so striking that people would stop and stare at him wherever he went. Echo, too, fell in love with him at first sight. But unable to speak her own words, she could only watch him from afar, longing to approach him. One day, as Narcissus was walking through the forest, he became separated from his companions. "Is anyone here?" he called out. Echo, hidden among the trees, repeated, "Here, here, here." Narcissus looked around, puzzled. "Come to me," he called. Echo could only respond, "Come to me, come to me." Delighted, Narcissus followed the voice. But when he saw Echo emerge from the shadows, he turned away, uninterested. Echo's heart broke even more, for she could not tell him how she felt. She could only repeat the words he said to her, and he thought she was mocking him. "Stay away from me!" Narcissus cried. "Stay away from me," Echo repeated softly, before retreating into the woods, her heart heavy with sorrow. As the days passed, Narcissus continued to reject all those who admired him, caring for nothing but his own beauty. One day, as he bent over a clear pool of water to drink, he saw his own reflection. He became entranced by his own image, captivated by the beauty staring back at him from the water's surface. Unaware that it was only his reflection, Narcissus fell deeply in love with it. He would sit for hours, gazing into the water, unable to tear himself away. Whenever he tried to touch the face in the pool, it would ripple and disappear, leaving him frustrated and heartbroken. "Why can't you stay with me?" Narcissus murmured to his reflection. "Stay with me," Echo whispered in the distance, her heart still longing for him. But Narcissus, so consumed by his love for his own reflection, wasted away by the pool, until he finally disappeared into the earth, leaving only a single flower in his place. This flower, the narcissus, with its delicate white petals and golden center, is said to bloom near quiet waters, forever a reminder of the tragic tale of unrequited love. As for Echo, her voice lingered in the forests and mountains, where she continued to repeat the last words of others, forever longing for the love she could never have. Story number 3. The Love of Selene and Endymion. Long ago, before the stars blinked into the night sky, there was a goddess who rode her chariot across the heavens, her silver light illuminating the world below. Her name was Selene, the goddess of the moon. Every night she cast her gentle glow upon the earth, guiding travelers and watching over the sleeping creatures of the world. Selene was a radiant and serene figure, her pale skin glowing like the moon, her long hair shimmering like the night sky. But despite her divine beauty and eternal purpose, she often felt a deep loneliness in her heart. The endless nights spent in the sky seemed vast and empty. She would gaze down at the world beneath her, longing for something she could not name. One night, as Selene passed over the hills of Mount Latmus. Her light fell upon a shepherd named Endymion, who was asleep on the mountainside. His face, bathed in the soft glow of moonlight, was more beautiful than any mortal Selene had ever seen. His dark curls framed a face of perfect peace, and his body, strong from years of tending his flock, seemed to shimmer in her light. Selene's heart, which had been so empty for so long, was suddenly filled with love. She descended from the heavens, her feet touching the earth like a whisper, and she knelt beside Endymion, unable to look away from his serene face. Night after night, Selene visited Endymion while he slept, her love for him growing deeper with every moment spent by his side. She would watch over him, her moonlight dancing across his skin, and she would whisper to him of her love, though he could never hear her. But Selene was a goddess, and as her love grew, she knew she could not bear the thought of Endymion aging and leaving the world. She wanted to preserve him just as he was in that perfect, peaceful slumber. So she went to Zeus, the king of the gods, and begged him to grant Endymion eternal sleep, a sleep where he would never age, never die, and forever be as beautiful as the night she first saw him. Zeus, moved by Selene's devotion, granted her wish. Endymion was placed in an eternal, dreamless sleep, his youthful beauty preserved for all time. From then on, Selene would come down from the heavens each night to lay beside her beloved. She would rest her head on his chest, feeling the rise and fall of his breath, and her soft moonlight would cover him like a blanket. Though Endymion slept forever, Selene's love for him never faded. She found peace and joy in their silent companionship. Night after night, she would watch over him, content in the quiet moments they shared beneath the stars. And so, the goddess of the moon and the eternal sleeper became intertwined in a love that transcended time, a love as gentle and eternal as the moonlight that touched the earth each night. This story, with its themes of eternal love and gentle devotion, is a perfect reminder of the quiet beauty found in stillness. Story number 3, The Myth of Eros and Psyche. Once upon a time, in a land far away, there lived a young woman named Psyche, whose beauty was so extraordinary that people from all over would come to admire her. In fact, her beauty was so remarkable that some began to say she was more beautiful than Aphrodite, the goddess of love herself. Hearing this, Aphrodite became jealous and angered. To punish Psyche, Aphrodite called upon her son, Eros, the god of love, known for shooting arrows that made people fall in love. She ordered him to make Psyche fall in love with the most hideous creature in the world. Eros agreed to his mother's request, but when he laid eyes on Psyche, he was struck by her beauty and grace. In a moment of distraction, Eros accidentally pricked himself with one of his own arrows and fell deeply in love with her. Though Psyche was admired by all, no one dared to ask for her hand in marriage. Her beauty seemed too divine, and men were afraid. Her father, the king, was concerned, so he sought advice from the oracle of Apollo. The oracle gave a strange prophecy. Psyche was destined to marry not a mortal man, but a mysterious winged creature who lived on a distant mountaintop. The king, heartbroken but obedient to the gods, led Psyche to the mountain, as the oracle had instructed, and left her there to await her fate. Alone and fearful, Psyche sat on the cold mountain, unsure of what awaited her. As she wept, a gentle breeze from Zephyr, the west wind, lifted her into the air and carried her to a beautiful palace. The palace shimmered with gold and marble, filled with treasures and wonders beyond her imagination. Though it was magnificent, the palace was strangely silent, with no one to be seen. That night, Psyche's mysterious husband came to her in the darkness. He spoke with a soft, kind voice and treated her with tenderness and care. However, he made one request: she must never try to see his face. He came to her only at night, and in the dark, their love grew. Despite her curiosity, Psyche respected his wishes and was content. Time passed, and, although Psyche was happy, she began to miss her family. Eros, still unseen by Psyche, agreed to let her sisters visit her. When they arrived and saw the grand palace and Psyche's riches, they grew envious. They whispered doubts into her mind, convincing her that her husband must be some horrible monster, and that she should look upon him while he slept to know the truth. That night, unable to resist her curiosity, Psyche lit a lamp while her husband slept and crept closer to see him. To her surprise, she did not find a monster, but the beautiful, winged god, Eros himself. Psyche was overwhelmed by his beauty and love. However, as she gazed at him, a drop of hot oil from her lamp fell onto Eros's shoulder, waking him. Eros, feeling betrayed that Psyche had broken her promise, fled from her in sorrow, disappearing into the night. Heartbroken, Psyche wandered the earth, searching for Eros. She knew she had made a terrible mistake and was determined to win back his love. After much wandering, she decided to seek the help of Aphrodite, hoping the goddess would reunite them. But Aphrodite, still angry, did not make it easy. She set Psyche a series of nearly impossible tasks, each more difficult than the last. Psyche was determined, though, and with the help of various gods and creatures, she completed each task. Her final task was the most dangerous of all. She was sent to the underworld to retrieve a box of beauty from Persephone, the queen of the underworld. With courage and wisdom, Psyche made the perilous journey and obtained the box. However, as she returned, her curiosity once again overcame her, and she opened the box, hoping to use some of the beauty for herself. Instead of beauty, the box contained a deep, magical sleep, and Psyche fell into a lifeless slumber. When Eros discovered what had happened, his love for Psyche was rekindled. He flew to her, gently wiped the sleep from her eyes, and carried her to safety. Moved by their devotion, Eros went to Zeus, the king of the gods, and pleaded for Psyche's immortality so they could be together forever. Zeus, impressed by Psyche's perseverance and Eros's love, agreed. He gave Psyche a drink of ambrosia, the food of the gods, granting her immortality. Psyche was transformed into a goddess, and at last she and Eros were united, never to be separated again. Even Aphrodite, seeing their love was true and enduring, forgave Psyche. Story number 4. The Tale of the Bamboo Cutter. Once upon a time, in a small village surrounded by tall, whispering bamboo forests, there lived an old bamboo cutter and his wife. Every day, the old man would go into the forest cutting bamboo and bringing it home to sell. They were a kind and humble couple, though they had no children and often wished for a family to call their own. One quiet morning, as the old bamboo cutter made his way through the dense forest, he noticed a soft glow coming from a nearby bamboo stalk. It shimmered in the sunlight, unlike any bamboo he had ever seen. Curious, he stepped closer and carefully cut the glowing bamboo. To his astonishment, inside the hollow of the stalk sat a tiny, radiant girl. no larger than his hand. She was so beautiful and delicate that the bamboo cutter believed she must be a blessing from the gods. Gently, he picked up the tiny girl and took her home to his wife. When they arrived, the little girl magically grew into the size of a human baby, bringing great joy to the couple. They named her Kaguya Hime, meaning radiant princess. From that day forward, Kaguya Hime grew quickly, and within just a few months she transformed into a stunning young woman. Her beauty was so otherworldly that it seemed to glow, and news of her loveliness spread far and wide. Despite their newfound joy, the bamboo cutter and his wife noticed something miraculous happening each time the old man cut bamboo. Inside the bamboo stalks, he began to find gold coins, enough to make the couple very wealthy. The bamboo cutter knew it was a gift from the heavens sent to take care of Princess Kaguya. As Kaguya Hime matured, many noblemen from distant lands came to ask for her hand in marriage, each one offering grand gifts and promises of devotion. But Kaguya Hime, with a gentle heart, had no desire to marry any of them. To avoid hurting their feelings, she gave each suitor an impossible task, quests they could never complete. One nobleman was tasked with retrieving the sacred stone bowl of Buddha hidden in a far-off temple. Another was asked to bring back a jeweled branch from a mystical island. A third was sent to find the robe of a fire rat, which was said to be impervious to flames. The tasks were all too difficult, and one by one, the nobleman gave up, unable to win Kaguya Hime's hand. Though many sought her, Kaguya Hime remained calm and content, staying with her beloved parents in the peaceful bamboo grove. However, as the months passed, the old couple noticed that Kaguya Hime often gazed up at the full moon with a sorrowful expression. They did not know why, but it was as if her heart belonged somewhere far away. One night, as the moon shone bright and full, Kaguya Hime could no longer hide the truth. Tearfully, she confessed to the old bamboo cutter and his wife that she was not from this world. She had come from the Moon Kingdom, sent to Earth as a punishment, though she could not remember why. Now, her time on Earth was drawing to an end. The people of the moon would come for her soon, and she would have to return to her celestial home, leaving the couple she had grown to love as her own parents. The old bamboo cutter and his wife were heartbroken. They could not imagine life without their beloved Kaguya Hime, and they begged her to stay. But Kaguya Hime knew her fate was sealed. On the night of the full moon, a great procession of heavenly beings descended from the sky, clothed in shining robes and riding clouds of light. They came to take Kaguya Hime back to the moon. Despite her sadness, Kaguya Hime knew she had to go. She tearfully said goodbye to the bamboo cutter and his wife, who wept as they realized they could not keep her. Before leaving, Kaguya Hime gave her parents a letter and a small vial of the elixir of immortality as a token of her eternal love for them. Then, with a heavy heart, she donned the celestial robe given to her by the moon's emissaries. As soon as she wore the robe, all her memories of her life on Earth and her love for her human parents began to fade. As the moon rose high in the sky, Kaguya Hime was carried away, rising up to the heavens, her luminous figure disappearing into the night. The bamboo cutter and his wife were left alone in their empty home, gazing at the moon, missing the daughter they had come to love so dearly. Though they were given the elixir of immortality, the bamboo cutter, in his sorrow, could not bear to live forever without his beloved Kaguya Hime. He took the vial and, with great reverence, climbed to the top of the highest mountain in the land. There, he poured the elixir into the fire, sending smoke into the sky, so that his wish to join Kaguya-Heim would one day reach the heavens. Story number 4. Orpheus and Eurydice, the Song of Love and Sorrow. In the heart of ancient Greece, there lived a musician named Orpheus, whose music could make even the gods weep. His lyre, a gift from Apollo, was like no other. When he played it, rivers would pause in their flow, birds would stop mid-flight, and the very trees would lean in to listen. His melodies were woven with magic, capable of stirring the souls of all who heard them. Orpheus was deeply in love with a beautiful nymph named Eurydice. Their love was pure and deep, like a stream running clear through a forest, untouched by sorrow. They spent their days together, dancing in sunlit meadows and sharing their hearts beneath the shade of ancient trees. It seemed as though their happiness would last forever. But fate, cruel and unyielding, had other plans. One day, as Eurydice walked through the forest, she was bitten by a venomous snake. The poison coursed through her veins, and in a tragic instant, her life slipped away. Orpheus was inconsolable. His beloved was gone, and the world, once filled with music and light, became a hollow, empty place. His lyre, which had once sung of love and joy, now wept with the sorrow of his broken heart. Unable to accept her loss, Orpheus made a decision that few mortals would dare. He would journey to the underworld to bring her back. With only his lyre and his undying love to guide him, Orpheus descended into the realm of the dead. The underworld was a place of shadows and silence, ruled by Hades and his queen, Persephone. Souls wandered aimlessly, shrouded in the mists of their forgotten lives. But Orpheus, with his music and his love, was undeterred. As he played his lyre, the mournful notes echoed through the dark caverns, and even the spirits of the dead paused to listen. When Orpheus reached the throne of Hades, he played a song of such sorrow, such longing, that the entire underworld wept. Persephone, moved by the purity of his love, whispered to Hades, urging him to grant Orpheus his wish. Hades, though a god of death, was not without mercy. He agreed to let Eurydice return to the world of the living, but on one condition: Orpheus must not look back at her as they ascended from the underworld. If he did, she would be lost to him forever. With hope flickering in his heart, Orpheus began the long climb out of the shadows, Eurydice following behind him, her steps soft and silent. His heart raced with anticipation, but also with fear. He could hear her behind him, could almost feel her presence, but he could not turn to look. The journey seemed endless, the weight of his love and longing pulling at him with each step. The closer they came to the surface, the more Orpheus's doubt gnawed at him. What if Hades had tricked him? What if Eurydice wasn't really there? His love was so strong, so desperate, that the temptation to see her again overwhelmed him. Just as they reached the mouth of the cave, where the light of the living world poured in, Orpheus's resolve faltered. He turned. For a brief, heartbreaking moment, their eyes met. Eurydice stood before him, her face filled with love and sorrow. But before he could reach out to her, she was pulled back into the darkness, her form dissolving like mist in the morning light. Her final whisper, carried on the winds of the underworld, echoed in his heart. Farewell, my love. Orpheus, shattered by his own weakness, returned to the world alone. His music, once filled with beauty and joy, was now a lament, a haunting melody that spoke of love lost and a soul forever incomplete. He wandered the earth, playing his lyre to the wind, to the trees, to the stars, until he could play no more. In the end, Orpheus's music lived on, immortalized by the gods. His story became a testament to the power of love, a reminder that even in the depths of sorrow, love can inspire beauty, and in memory, it can live forever.